Well, good morning. I'm pleased to be filling in for our town manager, Libby Gibson, who is taking a well-deserved vacation with her family. So don't know if Libby is watching this, but if she is, hope she's having a good time off the island. Everything is safe. Once again, it is snowing here. Unfortunately, it's kind of a common theme every week, but I guess we just plow through and carry on. Last night we had our regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting, and it was pretty uneventful, which I'm grateful for. We discussed various issues that are going on the island. We had a lot of planning and real estate activity that was fostered by Andrew Vorst, the planning director. Of note was the potential taking of the boulevard area streets for public use. And so we're working out the details with that right now. And one of the questions that came up with that from one of the local homeowners who lives adjacent to Orcoa was putting in a bike path if the town does take that property, which I think is a fantastic idea. So we'll make sure that the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Group also has that on their radar. Mr. Vorst did mention that we have other bike paths higher in the queue, but this may bump up if we are actually moving forward with it. We had a.
Does it look like it's going to pass, Greg?
I would think so. Based on
all the selectmen seem
very supportive of it. Exactly. I think they will, and I think it's a great idea. That area has become very heavily used. It's become a pass-through by a lot of residents and guests who go to and from the airport. So it's a way to bypass downtown. So it does make sense that the town gets involved with taking of that, of like the boulevard.
It's going to cost the town some money, though.
It will cost the town some money, and that was what was discussed yesterday and was brought up by Selectman Fee. How do we do this? How do we do it properly? Do we assess betterments? Do the town just take it? And that's what needs to be determined.
Basically, they're just going to take it, and then you're going to figure out how to pay for it later.
Well,
that's what I gathered.
That was actually one of the recommendations, as one of the selectmen said, kicking it down the road. But I don't know if that's necessarily the best idea.
Right.
One of the options also was that the homeowners there better the properties and then we take it. So I think that there are the details that do need to be figured out. So we're getting to that point, but I think it's pretty exciting, and I think it's the right way to go. And they said we recognize that it's become much more. It's a private road that has become very public.
Definitely.
So we need to do something about it.
It's just another alternative way to get to the airport.
Exactly, and we're limited when we have so many tourists in the summer.
Absolutely.
That it's a necessary egress. So I'm very happy that the board took action on that. We had a little bit of discussion about the One Big Beach project, and we got another easement off of Hulbert, which is also exciting. It's a great program.
Tell people who don't know what that means, what that is.
The One Big Beach project is getting easements and permission from various property owners who abut beaches around the island that we can have public access. So the idea is that we have one big beach that you can access all the beaches on Nantucket. It'll be a great legacy when it's all done.
Which is different from a lot of other places.
Really
Martha's
different.
Vineyard has all private beaches.
Martha's Vineyard is the exact opposite. They have mostly private beaches. So it's really it's a huge undertaking. A lot of kudos go to Erica Mooney from Town Administration, who helps put a lot of these on the docket, to Andrew Vorst in planning and his staff, Linnell Volans, who really keep this in front of us and keep getting easements week after week.
And I guess it's really, we have to give credit to the homeowner too, who allows,
Thank you for
because in
bringing
many ways.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. There's been a great willingness by the homeowners who abut beach properties to participate in this program. So the selectmen did ask for a report in the next couple of weeks of how far we've come, how many more, how much more property is required before we actually complete the program, and maybe what the cost of that will be.
Yeah.
So we don't always pay for it. Sometimes we provide other property and easements, or provide what we call like a taking.
Sure.
So,
okay.
which is also very exciting. We had a few more, just maybe not so notable real estate activities and stuff. I would think one of the bigger, more important things to our local businesses, we discussed our increase in building-related permit fees.
Right.
The Deputy Director of Planning, Leslie Snell, produced the proposed fees from electrical to building to everything else. And some of the fees almost double. They haven't been really looked at since earlier, and they're not sufficient to fund the planning office. So one of the questions that came up is there a guarantee from a local electrician? Is it possible to guarantee that these fees will be funneled directly back into Plus? Now, legally, no, it goes into the general fund. But conceptually, yes. The purpose of doing this is to be able to fund additional inspectors as we go forward. As the building permits increase on the island, we need to increase our services. So that is what we're intending to do. So I think Leslie did a very fine job explaining it, and those fees are listed on our website right now.
Okay.
So very happy about that. It was a long time in coming. I think one of the more exciting things we discussed last night was getting an emergency deficit spending waiver from the Department of Revenue in order to fix the town pier. What that basically means is the legislature, state law, chapter 44, section 31, allows for a municipality to spend even though they don't have the money. It's called deficit spending. It's not as easy as it sounds. We have to guarantee where that money's coming from. So we're intending to, the board passed it unanimously, and today our finance director, Brian Turbot, did send a letter to the state, to the Department of Revenue, with the hopes of getting a response within 24 hours of whether or not we can fund the $1.2 roughly million in repairs for the town pier through deficit spending, and then covering that by June 31st with our free cash. So there will be an article at town meeting requesting that specifically. So this allows us to move ahead more quickly with the town pier. So which is really important for us.
Right.
I also want to bring up that we did get a waiver from DCAM, the Division of Construction and Asset Management from the state, which doesn't allow us to bypass the state procurement processes, but allows us to expedite them. It allows us to waive the time limit to post and advertise, and it does allow us to just go and get quotes instead of RFPing, requesting for a proposal. So that's huge.
And we'll find out a little bit more about it when we meet our special guest.
Our special guest today, I'm very
Okay.
excited, so I don't have to go it alone. It's nice.
Exactly.
It's nice. And then the final discussion topic yesterday was extended NRTA service, Regional Transit Service. So Director Paula Leary from NRTA did give a great presentation, 3 options to increase services for this summer until about midnight. Then the point of this was to help local workers get out of downtown. And we know there's a traffic issue, we know there's a parking issue. So this would be a service to them. And so there were 3 proposals. The board chose one to discuss, but they asked Paula to come back next week with an alternative route. We want to be very sensitive to neighborhoods such as the Westover area and York Street, where we have 2 particularly large routes that traverse those streets. And a couple of residents came up and voiced their concerns, so Paula and the board are very actively looking at alternative routes.
And you know, I have to bring this up. I mean, as soon as they started to bring up their concerns about the noise, my first thought was, why do we have such loud buses? Why didn't we make at least have one bus that was either an electric or natural gas bus
Right.
that isn't loud, that can get through these? I mean, because there's trucks that come through there.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's people that have diesel trucks and big trucks.
Contractors and,
Yeah.
and DPW
Well,
vehicles.
we should have one bus, I think. I mean, one bus that's either natural gas or electric. Just
I'm surprised it didn't come up yesterday. One of the residents did bring that
that
up.
would be perfect in town.
It's a large, or having smaller buses,
Right.
more like shuttles instead of the size that they have. And unfortunately, it's separate from the town. NRTA is a separate entity. And I do know that they purchased new buses within the past few years, and I think they're a hybrid, and I could be wrong with that, but hopefully not.
Okay.
That there's a hybrid of maybe diesel and then other alternatives. I really don't know, and maybe they're just that noisy. But it's something to bring up, and hopefully there will be an NRTA board discussion about that soon. You know.
So what do we have for next week? What's on the docket for next week?
Well, next week, right now, the agenda is actually pretty light. It's really all about water quality. We're going to be talking about an update on the fertilizer regulation implementation. We are going to be discussing the sewer checklist, which is really going through the ringer right now with the sewer advisory work group as well as the Board of Health. We're going to be discussing the sewer regulation amendments, which will be discussed today, Thursday, at the Board of Health at 4 o'clock. And we have a bunch of contracts. So right now it's not that much on the agenda, but you know how these things work. By 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, it'll be a full agenda.
Okay.
That's what happens.
All right, so I guess it's time for our special
I'm
guest.
excited. I'm excited to have our special guest come on in.
Hi. Hello, Sheila.
Hi.
I'd like to welcome our Harbor Master, Chief Lucy. And what we kind of wanted to discuss today would be what's going on with the town pier. And as I mentioned a little bit before, we do have some emergency waivers from the state, for which we're very grateful. And we're very grateful to the department staff who have gone out of their ways to really get this turned around quickly. But I thought it would be a good opportunity for Chief Lucy to be able to discuss what is going on with the pier and maybe set expectations.
Okay, well, thank you. The pier got really destroyed, as we know, in that storm, Juno. The whole end, the breakwall pier got racked to the west. The stringers are all broken. The floating dock is broken, probably 9 different places. Yeah. The pier's buckled in several different areas. So it's going to take a marine contractor. As you said, it was going to be about $1.2 million. We have the names of companies that we're going out to get some quotes. Yep. To hopefully get contracts signed by the middle of March, then get the materials ordered and
Can I
start
ask
the
you,
work.
I want to stop you for a second, just because of does that price, do we already know the contractor for that price? We do not.
No, not yet.
Okay, so did you go out and shop for that price? I mean, how did you come up with $1.2 million? Because people are going to want to know that.
Okay, well, within like 10 days of the storm, we had the engineers come down. GZA Environmental is our engineers. They came down and did a complete evaluation of the pier. They had been out before, so they kind of knew what they were looking at, and then they just looked at the damage, and that's the estimate that the engineers came up with.
Did they allow you to go out and shop that? I mean, if it's going to go out to bid, that's the rough estimate, right?
Those are their what we call specifications.
Yeah.
So I want to stress too, we were very fortunate that Chief Lucy and Deputy Chief Gibson from the police department had already been working with GZA to get an estimate of what it would cost just to repair the pier from previous damage. So we were that much further ahead of the game. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they were able to turn them around and get them here after Juno, as a matter of fact, it was one window. They got here on the day that everything ran, and then they got out, and the next day everything was closed again. So we're very fortunate. They developed these specifications, which we're really waiting for right now. That's actually the one thing that we're really waiting for. But they gave a general cost. It's an estimate. It could be lower, we hope. It could be higher. So what happens now, the next step is, once we get everything in place, we have our waiver from the state, we'll have maybe our deficit spending authority, then we get the what we call the specifications in writing, then we shop those out. And like as Chief Lucy said, we do have about 10 different marine engineering firms that we would like to just float them to and then see if they can do a quick turnaround with a quote.
Is that possible? I mean, this soon to get somebody? I mean, I ask you.
Well, it's going to be tricky because all the coastal communities suffered a lot of damage on the water. There's been lots of marina damage. There was breakwall damage, and so we're in competition with a lot of people. There's private enterprise. There's other municipalities that are going to be looking for these people to come and work on them. There's one contractor that's been hired by the boat basin, and they had scheduled work at the boat basin in the yacht club. So they were going to be out here anyways, and so maybe we could piggyback off of them if they, put the bid in and they come in at the right price. So that's what we're kind of hoping for, and then it's going to take some time to order the materials. Again, there's going to be a big demand for pilings and stringers and stuff like that for docks, so...
we have to put actual new pilings in?
Yeah, we need at least 60 new pilings.
60?
Yes.
Wow.
64, yeah.
60, at least. And so...
Is that all? How many pilings do we have there now?
There's 428.
Oh, there are. Wow.
Yes.
That many. Okay. Yeah. That's a lot.
So, and the floating dock needs to be completely rebuilt and reconstructed, so...
If we get another storm, Sheila, like the one we got, or worse, I mean, is it gonna... Will the dock hold up?
Well,
The new one?
The new
After it's
one,
fixed?
well, we hope so.
Yeah, that'd be the intent.
The engineers recommended some different types of fasteners and stuff that we can use that we're gonna incorporate into when they come and do the repair on this, so.
And you bring up a good point, Gino. we want to stress that what we're doing is just rebuilding the pier exactly as it was. We've had questions of why aren't we fortifying it? Why aren't we putting a breakwater in? Why we don't? Well, these emergency waivers only allow us to rebuild exactly as it was. If we wanted to rebuild a pier, to redesign it, that's a whole different permitting process. It was discussed at the Board of Selectmen 2 weeks ago. Selectman Glidden asked if, why don't we just wait? Why don't we do something totally different in 2 years, have a refortified, different looking pier? But there was no appetite for that. We wanted to at least get this up and running. So that's a very good point. And I know people are very impatient, and I don't blame them, but you know, we have a good friend, Troy, who said Rome wasn't built in a day. We need to really be patient with this, and we really appreciate everybody's willingness to participate and work with us on this. But it's going to take a little while, and as Chief Lucy mentioned, we're not the only community, and we're also hampered by being so far out. So, you know, we know Situate's in the same boat. We know Marshfield and other communities, Sandwich. We're really a great shout out to Chief Lucy, the Marine Department, and others who really turned this around that quickly. It may seem to people like nothing is happening. I think people want to see cranes and hammers and nails flying around there, but we're doing all the legwork right now. We're the duck on smooth water with our feet really working overtime, and we hope to have some really good news by this time next week.
All right.
We hope.
Okay. That it?
I think that's it. Do you want to talk about the slip lottery or anything?
Yeah, so we typically hold the slip lottery the first Friday in April. And as of now, we're going to postpone that until we see where we're at. We see what the contractors can get done. We have a concern for our commercial guys that use the dock. We're encouraging them to find an alternate mooring just for the beginning of the season, because we hope to be up and running, you know, fairly soon, but it's definitely
July?
not going to be May. Well, we're hoping for July.
Okay.
That's a hope.
That would be hope.
That's a hope.
Okay.
But in anything better than that would be gravy.
Yeah,
So
that would be great. And we know the department's really focusing on our commercial activities, so we want to make sure they're up and running somehow this summer.
Terrific. Well, thanks for filling in for Libby.
Thank you.
We'll see her next week.
Yes, you will.
She's on vacation watching, so if you guys want to say hi.
Hey, Libby.
Hey, Libby.
Don't come back. It's snowing.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys.
Thank you very much, Gino.
Thank you.
thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.